Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. I know what you're thinking. Silence. How can that possibly help me with my already crazy busy schedule?
Yeah, it does seem a little counterintuitive, right?
It totally does. But trust me, this one is going to be good. Today we're exploring the unexpected power of silence and how it can actually boost your mental clarity and creativity.
That's right.
We've got a couple of sources to guide us today, a Medium article by Jane Smith and a blog post from the Inspiration Co. And let me tell you, even I was surprised by some of the insights they offer.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, when we talk about silence, most people think of, a peaceful landscape or a quiet room, but it's so much more than just the absence of external noise.
Mm,
It's really about creating space for internal reflection.
that's interesting. So you're saying it's not just about turning down the volume, but like tuning into your own thoughts and feelings.
Exactly. Imagine your mind is like a computer with dozens of tabs open. All those tabs, they represent the constant influx of information we deal with every day. Notifications, emails, social media, not to mention our own internal chatter.
Oh, I know all about that internal chatter.
Right. So silence is like closing those unnecessary tabs. It allows your mental processing power to focus on what truly matters.
Okay, I'm starting to see how that could lead to better concentration and decision making, like Jane Smith talks about in her article. But what about creativity? I'm not sure I get how being quiet actually helps you come up with new ideas.
Well, think about it this way. When we're constantly bombarded with external stimuli, our minds are in a reactive state.
Right.
We're processing information, responding to demands, trying to keep up with the pace of life. That kind of mental environment isn't exactly conducive to creative thinking.
I see what you mean. It's like we're so busy reacting that we don't have the mental space to actually create.
Exactly. When we remove those external pressures and distractions, our minds are free to wander, to explore new connections, to make those unexpected leaps that lead to those aha moments.
So you're saying silence allows our brains to switch from react mode to create mode.
Precisely. The Inspiration Code blog post actually highlights how many artists and innovators throughout history have found their biggest breakthroughs in moments of solitude.
You know what? That actually makes a lot of sense. It's like when you're struggling with a problem and then you go for a walk in nature and suddenly the solution just pops into your head. It's almost like your subconscious has been working on it in the background and the silence gives it the space to finally break through.
That's a great way to put it. And it's not just anecdotal either. Studies have shown that silence can actually boost activity in the areas of the brain associated with creativity and imagination.
Really?
Yeah, it's like giving your creative muscles a chance to stretch and flex.
So you've got mental clarity and enhanced creativity.
Yeah.
Is there anything else silence is good for? I mean, I'm sold already, but I'm curious.
There's more. Turns out, silence can have a profound impact on our emotional well-being and stress levels too. We're so used to being constantly stimulated that we rarely take the time to just be with ourselves, to process our emotions without all the distractions.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like we're always plugged into something, whether it's our phones, our work, or even our social lives. We rarely give ourselves permission to just unplug and be still.
Exactly. And that constant stimulation takes a toll on our emotional and mental state. Think about it. When was the last time you truly experienced silence and just allowed yourself to feel whatever came up?
Honestly, can't remember. So how does silence actually help with emotional balance? Is it just about having a break from the chaos?
Well, it's partly that, yes, but it's also about creating space for introspection. When we quiet our minds, we can start to notice our emotions more clearly, to identify what we're feeling and why.
So it's like hitting the pause button on that emotional roller coaster we're all riding.
Right. Precisely. Silence gives us a chance to step off the ride for a moment, take a deep breath, and simply observe what's going on inside. This self-awareness, in turn, can lead to greater emotional resilience.
Okay, that makes sense. The more we understand our emotions, the better equipped we are to manage them in a healthy way. So instead of getting overwhelmed by stress, we're able to navigate those feelings more effectively.
Exactly. Silence can also help us to develop a sense of inner peace and calm.
Mm.
It's like creating a sanctuary within ourselves where we can retreat to recharge and find balance.
Wow. I'm already starting to feel calmer just thinking about it. I need to incorporate more silence into my life stat,
Yeah.
but I'm a little worried about how practical that really is. I mean, I can't exactly drop everything and disappear into the wilderness.
Of course not. But fortunately, both of our sources offer some very practical advice on how to incorporate silence into our busy lives. Maybe we can explore those suggestions.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm really curious to hear what they have to say.
Okay, great.
Okay, so Let's talk about some practical ways to actually bring more silence into our lives. I'm actually really curious about this part because, to be honest, I was a little skeptical at first. I mean, how do you actually schedule silence into a day that's already bursting at the seams?
Right. Well, one of the simplest things they both suggest is starting the day with a few minutes of silence. Before you even think about opening your inbox or scrolling through social media, just take a few minutes to yourself.
You mean like before I even have my
Well,
coffee?
you can have your coffee,
Yeah.
but just try to enjoy it without any distractions.
So, no checking emails while I sip my latte.
Try to resist the urge. Even 5 or 10 minutes can make a difference. You know it's about setting the tone for the day, allowing yourself to center and ground yourself before the chaos begins.
Okay, that's actually doable. I can see myself fitting that in. But what about during the day when we're like in the thick of things? Are there any strategies for finding those pockets of silence when you're surrounded by noise and demands?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Both sources emphasize the importance of taking short breaks throughout the day. To just step away from work and noise, even just a few minutes can help reset your mind and boost your productivity.
I know I should take more breaks, but I usually end up just scrolling through social media or checking emails, which isn't exactly silent.
Right. It's important to be intentional about those breaks. Instead of reaching for your phone, try finding a quiet corner in your office, or stepping outside for a moment, or even just close your eyes at your desk and take a few deep breaths.
So it's like creating those mini retreats throughout the day, those little pockets of silence where you can reconnect with yourself.
Exactly. And those small moments, they really can accumulate over time, creating a sense of calm and balance even amidst a hectic schedule. Another thing you could try is actually scheduling silence blocks into your calendar.
Like an actual appointment with silence.
Exactly, just like you would any other important meeting.
That's a really good idea. I could block off 30 minutes in the afternoon for a walk in the park, or even just some quiet time at my desk. Like give myself permission to unplug and recharge.
Exactly. And speaking of unplugging, both sources also talk about the importance of digital detoxes.
Oh, yes, the dreaded digital detox. I know it's good for me, but I don't know. The thought of being disconnected from my phone for any extended period of time kind of freaks me out.
I get it. It's definitely a challenge, but remember, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You know, start small. Maybe try putting your phone on Do Not Disturb for a few hours each evening, or designate certain days of the week as device-free zones.
Yeah, I could see myself doing that. Maybe Sundays could be my day to unplug and reconnect with the real world. And speaking of the real world, I love the suggestion from both sources about getting out into nature. There's something about being surrounded by trees and fresh air that just automatically calms me down.
Absolutely. Nature walks are fantastic for incorporating silence into your life. The key is to leave your phone behind and just truly immerse yourself in the experience. Pay attention to the sounds of the birds, the wind rustling through the leaves, the feeling of the sun on your skin. It's like a natural form of meditation.
It is, and it's so much easier to find silence in nature, away from the constant buzz of the city. Okay, so we've got morning silence rituals, mini breaks throughout the day, digital detoxes, and nature walks. What about our evening routine? Any tips for winding down with silence?
Yeah, both sources suggest ending the day with some quiet reflection. This could involve journaling, meditating, reading a book, or simply sitting in stillness and observing your breath. It's a chance to process the day's events, let go of any lingering stress, and prepare for a restful night's sleep.
That sounds lovely, actually. I often find myself scrolling through social media in bed before I go to sleep, which I know is not doing me any favors. Maybe I could swap that out for a few minutes of meditation or some gentle stretching. That's a great idea. The important thing is to find what works for you and to make it a consistent part of your routine. And remember, even just a few minutes of silence each day can make a world of difference.
I'm starting to believe that. It's funny, we've been talking about all these practical tips, but I'm realizing that silence isn't just about finding quiet time. It's also about being present in those moments, about really paying attention to what's happening both internally and externally.
Absolutely. It's about cultivating a sense of mindfulness, being fully engaged in the present moment, without judgment or distraction.
And isn't that what life is all about? I mean, what's the point of having all these experiences if we're not truly present for them?
You got it. Silence can help us to savor those moments, to appreciate the beauty and wonder that surrounds us, and to connect with ourselves and the world on a deeper level.
Wow. This deep dive has taken some unexpected turns. I came in thinking we were just going to talk about how to be quiet, but it's become so much more than that. It hasn't it? Silence can be such a powerful tool
Hmm.
for self-discovery,
Mm-hmm.
creativity, and well-being. It's about finding that stillness within ourselves, that place of peace and clarity that allows us to navigate the complexities of life with grace and intention.
This has been incredibly insightful. I'm feeling really inspired to make some changes in my own life, starting today. But before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to add? Any final words of wisdom for our listeners?
Hmm. I just encourage everyone to experiment with silence, to find what works for them and to make it a regular practice. Start small, be patient,
Hmm.
and trust the process. You might be surprised by what you discover.
That's wonderful advice. So, to our listeners, I hope this deep dive has inspired you to embrace the power of silence in your own lives. Whether it's starting your day with a few minutes of meditation, taking mindful breaks throughout the day, or simply enjoying a quiet walk in nature, there are countless ways to incorporate silence into your routine. Remember, it's not about finding more time, but about making the time you have more meaningful. So turn down the volume, tune into yourself, and see what unfolds. You might be amazed by what you hear. Thanks for joining us on this journey of discovery. Until next time, keep seeking, keep exploring, and keep embracing the quiet moments that life has to offer.
I think we touched on it a bit earlier, but one of the things that really struck me in both of these articles is the connection between silence and emotional
Yeah,
balance.
me too. I feel like that's something we could all use a little more of these days. It seems like everyone is just so stressed out and overwhelmed all the time.
Right. And I think part of that is because,
Yeah.
we live in a world that's constantly demanding our attention.
Right.
We're always on, always connected, always reacting to something.
It's true. And it's exhausting. By the end of the day, I feel like I've run a marathon, even if all I've done is sit at my desk.
I totally get it. And it's in that state of constant reactivity that we lose touch with our own emotions. We might feel stressed or anxious or irritable, but we don't really understand why.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like I'm just going through the motions, reacting to whatever comes my way, instead of actually taking the time to process what I'm feeling.
Exactly. And that's where silence comes in. It gives us the space to step back from all the noise and all the demands and to just tune into ourselves.
Hmm. So silence isn't just about feeling calmer, it's about developing a deeper understanding of our emotional landscape.
Exactly. When we quiet our minds, we can start to notice our emotions more clearly. We can identify what we're feeling and why.
I see what you mean. It's like creating space to actually listen to what our emotions are trying to tell us, instead of just trying to ignore them or push them down.
You got it. It's not about suppressing or denying our emotions, but about developing a healthy relationship with them. When we allow ourselves to feel our feelings fully, without judgment, we can start to understand their root causes and learn to manage them more effectively.
So it's like silence gives us the tools to become more emotionally resilient, better equipped to handle whatever life throws our way.
Precisely. It's about developing that inner strength and flexibility. That allows us to bounce back from challenges, to navigate difficult situations with grace, and to cultivate a sense of inner peace, even amidst the storms of life.
I love that. You know, at the beginning of this deep dive, I was thinking of silence as a luxury, something I could maybe squeeze into my schedule if I had a spare moment. Now I'm realizing it's so much more than that. It's essential.
I agree, it's like a key ingredient for a fulfilling and meaningful life.
Exactly. Well, this has been an incredible conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us.
It's been my pleasure. I always enjoy talking about the power of silence.
And to our listeners, I hope this deep dive has inspired you to embrace the power of silence in your own lives. We've talked about a lot of different ways to incorporate silence into your daily routine, from mindful breaks throughout the day to simply enjoying a quiet walk in nature. Whatever resonates with you, give it a try. You might be surprised by what you discover. And remember, silence is a gift, not a punishment. It's an opportunity to reconnect with ourselves, to tap into our creativity, and to cultivate a sense of peace and well-being. So turn down the volume, tune into yourself, and see what unfolds. You might be amazed by what you hear. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.